ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Chaos Magic 101. Today we're going to be talking about how to build your own spirits using Chaos Magic. Now, we're not talking about simple thought forms here. We're actually talking about building spirits that you can use in a near, say, Goetic or Enochian fashion. So, first things first, we need to outline the spirit, the purpose of the spirit. So, we want to be edgy here. We want to be cutting edge and dark and kind of gothic feeling. So we're going to do a spirit of war, a spirit of aggression, and probably something that can steal the energy of our enemies and give it to us because fuck them. So, first things first, as I said, we need to really figure out the spirit, the purpose. So, I mean, that seems pretty straightforward, but we might want to hone it down a little bit. So when I say anger and aggression, I think more like war magic. And when I say stealing energy, I think more like vampirism, psychic vampirism. That will work well. So, the next thing we need to do is we need to think about, are there any other spirits that really fit that description? Now, we've done some research, and there are kind of a few. One of them is Sekhmet. She's like an Egyptian god of war. She's got that lion head, and she looks pretty awesome. And her myth goes that she, was created by Ra and went on this rampage and almost killed all of humanity, and then they had to save her by flooding the Nile and making her think that it was blood. They got her all drunk, and then, But as good as it sounds, it doesn't quite fit. It doesn't jive with me very well, although we might work with her later. Another one is Nurgle. Nurgle from the Sumerian pantheon. He's pretty awesome. He's like a plague god. He's got that war aspect, and he's really got the death, but he kind of lacks the vampirism. But he is pretty awesome in that he will like sick plagues on his enemies, and I like that, but it doesn't really work with the psychic vampirism. But one word jumped out at me, Akikaru from the Sumerian. Now, Akikaru is a word that means vampire, but there's nothing really associated with it. And although that would work, that doesn't really encompass the whole war aspect. So we're left back at square one. But don't worry, because this isn't the end. We do have a way of doing this. We know what we want, so that means that we're going to have to come up with the spirit. And to do that, we've got a nifty little table. And on this table, you'll notice we've written out some phonemes like ta, amun, shoko, ebu, po. Yeah. So we're going to use that. Now, in order to use that, we need to take a 6-sided die, and we have to roll it. Now, you'll notice off to the side, I've made a list of on and off, and yes and no. So we have a way to determine those. And the way we're going to make this spirit is, first, we're going to see if this thing's turned on or off. We need to know if there's a spirit even remotely wanting to work with this. So we'll roll. And it looks like it's on. So that's good. Second, we're going to have to ask, well, how many phonemes are in the spirit's name? So we roll. I got a 5. And is that the correct number? So on an odd it'll be a yes, on an even it'll be a no. Even, so no. And are there more phonemes? So again. And no. So how many are there? 2. Okay, so now we've got a correct answer. We should verify, and yes, it is correct. 2 it is. So we need to figure out its name. Well, first, we're going to roll for the bottom part. We got 2 and 5. So it looks like the first part of our spirit's name is Gal. G-A-L. And the second part, we've got 3 and 4. So it looks like Gosh. G-A-C-H. And last, is that correct? Yes. Yes, it is. It is most certainly correct. We rolled a 1. And of all the odds, that is the most correct. So, now that we have the spirit's name, we can take another piece of paper, and we can put it over our spirit square. And we know we've got go and gosh. So we can make a little thing. Now, obviously, that's not going to be very impressive, but we can do something a little bit different to make it work. So, instead of necessarily relying on this, it works very well if you have a lot more phonemes in the name, but Galgash only has 2. So what we can do is either take and transfer this to straight letters, or we can turn to our alphabet of desire and figure out what symbols actually flow best with that. Given what we're looking at, I feel like this is a spirit of not just war and aggression, but a spirit of atrophy that's going to be stealing stuff for us. So let's just go with the glyph of atrophy. I mean, it seems most likely. We've got the whole war aspect, and we can get a lot of that war aspect, but let's go with what we really want, which is stealing our enemy's energy while he works them over. So we'll just put down the glyph of atrophy and draw it right here, right in the corner. Voila. So you'll see we've got the glyph of atrophy. Not very big, but we don't need it to be. Now, we've done some good work here. We've got a name, we've got a glyph. Now what we need to do is start building a body for the spirit. And we've got a few things that we can do with that. A big part of this whole body building part is actually empowering the spirit. When you give it an image, you give it a name, and then you give it a glyph associated with it, you're actually going to start filling it with energy. So, for the spirit's body, I've chosen something that will probably make you laugh a little bit. A nice glittery skull. It'll look fabulous while it's going out and terrorizing our enemies and bringing back their energy for us. And, you know, it's got that sparkly sheen, so it'll really make you feel kind of like a very sexy evil sorcerer. To help build it, I like using bottles. You can put all sorts of shit in here, and I like just stacking correspondences. So, bottle. Now, we've got our glyph, obviously. So we're going to take this glyph here, and we're going to just roll it up and stick it in. And that's a good place to start. Now, also, I like to give spirits offerings of tobacco, because for some reason, I've got it in my head at a young age that all spirits like tobacco, and I don't know if it's from my work with voodoo, or if it's just some sort of crazy thing I got into my head when I was young, but these little cigarillos actually work really well, so we're going to give them one of these too. And don't worry if it doesn't fit completely in the bottle, because we can actually just mash it down. They really don't mind that. We're also working with energies of death. So I've got some myrrh, and I've got some pine resin. Now, myrrh is very closely associated with death in a lot of, say, Hermetic traditions, and also with voodoo, well, specifically Voodoo, and as I understand it, the Ifa tradition of voodoo, although I know very little about it admittedly, so I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that it is, I'm just going to say that I think it is, so we'll go with that. But myrrh. Now, pine resin, I actually took from the Simon Necronomicon. They say that you should give offerings of pine resin and of other sweet-smelling incense for the dead. So we're going to go with pine resin as well. It, you know, it has that kind of like goopy look, whereas the myrrh's kind of got that granulated look. But both will actually look fairly good in the bottle. And you only need a pinch. That's really probably the best part. So we'll just take a bit of the pine resin, and we'll take a bit of the myrrh. Okay. And as you see, it didn't take a lot, and already the bottle's kind of coming together, but it still looks like it needs something, like it's lacking something fundamental. So, we can add other things. Cinnamon, water, beer, wine, tequila, really anything that you would associate with war and with atrophy. Now, we've got a lot of death in here, but we don't really have a lot of war. So why don't we take and we create some war? Now, we've got this wonderful piece of paper that we can continue tearing up, but we can do things like write down names of either battles, or we can write down names of people who were great warriors, or what I prefer to do, just draw down some symbols that you associate with war. For instance, you can draw a little sword on here. Okay, sword, good war. Also, Mars, the astrological sign. And we might as well take another step and just say we'll use the glyph associated with anger from our alphabet of desire. And there, we've got actually a fairly good set of glyphs. And of course, we can just take and tear this out and roll it up and shove it in. And since we've got that cigar in there, it'll go fairly nicely around it. And, you know, don't be afraid to use what tools you have on hand to really kind of make things work. So now we've got something that looks kind of okay, although I still feel like it's missing something. So we might go for some water. I'll be right back. I'm going to go fill this with water. So, like I said, water. And then we can just cap it off with a nice cork. Voila! Now we've got an excellent looking body. So what we'd have to do next is either build an altar or start some kind of devotional to really start empowering the spirit. A good choice here would be maybe writing an actual prayer for the spirit. So, oh gosh, it sounds almost Klingon, like a war thing. So why don't we look at writing a prayer that sounds either kind of Klingon-y or just as straight up a war spirit. So we know we want this to steal the energy of our enemies, so why don't we just go with fuck you motherfuckers. Where is my fucking energy? Motherfuckers. Okay. I mean, it seems like a good prayer, but if you actually use that and do some intense, like, meditation beforehand, and you scream out, "Fuck you, motherfuckers! Where's my fucking energy, motherfuckers?" And you really start getting that down, you're gonna get some effects. Now, I might also do something like give offerings of blood when I do this, or also give offerings of, like, shots of hard alcohol and cigarettes and other things to, like, really get that whole atrophy and war feeling. And if I really want to, I might also offer a devotional of going out and getting my ass kicked or kicking someone's ass, because nothing like a good fight to help offer a devotional to a war deity. Now, again, there's a lot to this, and it seems pretty off, but it's really simple. So the only other thing you'd really have to do is build an altar that can be used over and over again. Make sure it's in a good space, and, you know, keep working at it. And of course, once you have your spirit, you have to be consistent. Now, there's only one more thing you have to do, and it's fairly simple. You have So there's only one more thing you have to do, and you have to be consistent about this every time you work with a spirit. You have to write out a contract, outline what you want that spirit to do. So, since we already have an idea of what we want it to do, we'll just write up a contract. And as you can see, the contract's fairly simple. I mean, look it over, there's not a lot to it, and we'll also post another copy of this that you can download that's blank that you can fill out for yourself. Anyway, that's all I have for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen, so have a wonderful evening, and go fuck yourselves.
Yeah, Cthulhu Fatagan!
Of course, magic can be done with anything at hand, but proper correspondences make successful rituals so much easier. Buy those nifty tools, supplies, and more at witchcraftspellsandsupplies.com. Witchcraftspellsandsupplies.com is the web store of Rena Magic, a brick-and-mortar store run by experienced mages, witches, and priests with over 30 years of craft experience. We offer herbs, oils, stones, candles, ritual tools, incense, soaps, and so much more. We make many of our own products and even share the details of how we make them. Our fluid condensers are old-school alchemy with effects like you read in fantasy books. Go to witchcraftspellsandsupplies.com to buy them and even learn how to make your own. Wholesale and distributor accounts are available on request, and we are always looking for unusual and esoteric products to add to our inventory. We aim to become the most comprehensive source for magical supplies in the world, and with your help, we can be.